transition, like the whole, like, literally the meme that you hear on Fox News, like, it was that kind of teacher. And I remember one day I had lied to her because it was the election day, and I was like, oh, because we were going around, she wanted us to all tell stories of like how, politically, civically engaged we were. And I was like, oh, I saw like a young family voting and they all had like Hillary wear on, and it made me feel like really empowered. And it was like the worst feeling that I ever had because I was like, I don't ever want to lie to people and I don't want to live a truth that is not my own. And very shortly after, I was like, I'm never doing that again. Got into a very long form, like controversial debate because they were having a gender pay gap bake sale. And I was like, the gender pay gap doesn't exist. Rattled off the like quintessential Peace 2016 culture war, like PragerU talking points. And from then on, I think got sort of typecast, at least in high school, as like the MAGA turning point girl, which was so not me. I always pride myself, like I love my job, but I have a, whole life outside of it too. And I think that there's sort of this weird urge to like typecast all conservatives on campus as sort of like zoo animal, that's your only personality. And I did a podcast because they had started a show called Right on Point. And I was under the impression that it was like, oh, we can say what we want. And I had been sort of pushing the administration to bring conservative speakers. They had literally had a member of the Communist Party USA come and speak. And they had sort of abdicated their role, I would argue, of admissions, and they kind of weaponized that whole process just to accept essentially like, minorities, the whole DEI trope. But I was very disheartened sort of seeing all this happen around me. So I tried to push back, not in like a hair on fire kind of way, but just like raising points. You guys say you care about diversity. What about diversity of thought? And apparently what I said on the podcast was really controversial. They had to call an emergency meeting with like the Gay Straight Alliance, the Feminist Club, like the Black Kids Club.
What did you say?
I just said I wasn't a feminist. I was like, I kind of explained why I like Trump, particularly on immigration. It wasn't, I'm a lot more radical now.
You've since, in fact, when Ryan and us were coming on the show, you've since referred to like trannies and gone further along those lines, which I think is probably an arc that a lot of people in your generation have gone down in the last several years too.
Yes, I think for sure. I mean, also too, just from my perspective, before Steve went to prison, I was doing more investigative reporting, particularly on Chinese Communist Party infiltration, which I guess is where I was getting to my story. And I'm very proud of the work that I did. Members of Congress, the Republican Study Commission cited it, the National Association of Scholars. I broke a lot of stories about the origins of COVID, stories from Hunter Biden's hard drive that led to the removal of, Peter Daszak from the COVID origins investigative team. Doing, like I said, the exclusives, listening to the audio tapes from Hunter Biden's hard drive is, I think, an extremely cool career accomplishment. I was, 19 or 20 at the time. So I've always focused on that. And my approach to doing media was like, I never want to be an opinion commentator because I was very cognizant of my age. And I think being a woman too, I was just like, I don't ever want to come off like my opinion matters because it doesn't. Like, I don't have experience. Like, I was very cognizant of that. So I always abstained from doing opinion commentary. And then when Steve went to prison and I joined a show about 2 years ago as a co-host, I couldn't just rattle off my like deep dive researching for an hour while hosting the show, right? It's a different gig. So I always joke that like the worst thing they did was send Steve to prison because it helped me kind of find my broadcasting voice and go on the rants, which I know we were talking about. But that sort of pushed me into that role. But to my core, deep down, I'm like an oppo researcher. And I wish I had the time and the chance to do that more. But I also think people like the rants. They like the kind of inflammatory content. Not that I'm, trying to be like the Daily Mail, for clickbait. But, if you're doing these long form investigative pieces and no one's reading them, it's kind of like, what's the point?
You've heard about the Super Bowl's legendary pregame tailgate party, where the biggest stars in music kick off football's biggest game. iHeartRadio is bringing the show to your radio for the Super Bowl 59 YouTube tailgate concert.
That guy wasn't know.
Live from New Orleans, Super Bowl Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 Pacific. Watch on YouTube at youtube.com/NFL and hear it on the new and improved free iHeartRadio app. The exclusive audio of the Super Bowl 59 YouTube tailgate concert.
This ain't the little itty bitty teeny tiny bowl. This is Super Bowl 59. Get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner.